program that operates through the University of Texas, and so we get some perks with that. We have an employee assistance program to offer a number of resources for members that need it. Our members will also get UTIDs that get them free bus transportation across the city of Austin. So we do have quite a large local number in our cohort that are using the bus, but then for people who are transplants and relocating for the role, if you're not able to bring a car with you, that can save a ton of money, having that benefit for sure. And we really don't have that prerequisite of having people on a teacher track. Our core is a really diverse group. This past year, we had our youngest member was 17, our oldest member was 78.
I love that.
So far, I think about over a third of our members are over the age of 30. So we have a lot of retirees or transitioning professionals. And I think that there's so much benefit to that because there's this intergenerational mentorship on all angles. And there's a lot of, you're getting a lot out of it, being able to see the growth of the students that you're working with. That's so amazing. And see it on a graph in a chart, they're doing this. But also just knowing you're gaining so many things just building those relationships. And they are relationships that can last a really long time. My teammate was my reference for my current job, and he and I stay in touch all the time and visit when we can. And so I think you never know when you're going to make a strong network connection. You never know when you're going to make a really close friendship, sometimes one and the same. And we really try to foster that in our program.
I told you folks we'd be back with another AmeriCorps alum who is recruiting for AmeriCorps members. We are here with Leah Pagano. She's out in Austin, and she's got a great story about trying out both coasts, the West Coast and the left coast and the right coast, and now down in Texas. But this is the AmeriCorps Connections podcast, and I'm Nicki Fiocco. I am the founder and brainchild behind AmeriCorps Connections, and it was really built out of my desire after my service year in 2011 to 2012 to stay connected with folks in the industry and people who have served. And I love national service. I love AmeriCorps. And if you're listening to this now in July, which it should come out in July, hey, go ahead and reach out to your congressperson. And I can say this is not coming from Leah. Reach out to your congressperson. Tell them to save AmeriCorps. Right now, AmeriCorps is 100% on the chopping block. So find out who your representative is down for the federal government and email them. Give them a link to this podcast. Let them hear all the 56, 60, 63 stories of people who have gone through AmeriCorps and the return on investment in the way that these folks are showing up and now working in industries all across our country. Okay, that was my little pitch to keep this program running. Thank you, Dan Medevere, and thank you, Sharon Tewksbury Bloom, and the Do Good, Be Good team for helping me with editing, production, and marketing of this podcast. Okay. I decided I wanted to keep my intro short, and I think it was a lot better. So, Leah, let's go ahead and lean into, is it Leah or Leah? I told you I was going to get one. Leah. Let's go ahead and get a snapshot of your service year. How did you find out about AmeriCorps? And then what did you do during your service year?
Yeah, first I want to say awesome shout out. So important, I think, for us to keep that civic engagement from our AmeriCorps time onward. And thanks again for inviting me and putting this together. It's really, I feel like there's that nut is hard to crack of how to get alumni engaged. And I really think this podcast is doing that. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. So I learned about AmeriCorps in a college class. One of my education classes, a teaching assistant had done the Peace Corps. And then also had the little side note about AmeriCorps as a domestic option. And I knew I really wasn't in a place where I wanted to spend 2 years in another country. I wanted to try something new though. And civic engagement, that sense of duty was definitely part of my process. And also I've just learned over time that every experience is an informative one. You can gain skills from any type of job or role that you fill. So I knew that I was really trying to figure out, I studied education. I was going to be a teacher, but I wasn't ready to be in the classroom just yet. So this seemed like a really great opportunity to gain a lot of skills, make some strong connections, and then carry that into the next chapter for me. I'm from the Dallas area originally. I went to college out of state in upstate New York. And then I was like, what's going on in California? And shout out to my parents for being so supportive and allowing me to be able to test out all 3 coasts. And yeah, I went and did 2 years in Northern California in a program called CalServes. I think now is AmeriCorps EXL. And it was a tutoring and after school program. So in my education wheelhouse, and I came in as a leader. I did a little bit of tutoring, but mostly my role was focused on the after school program. My teammate did a lot of the compliance stuff, ordering snacks, sign-in sheets, a lot of the things that for me, I need a little spice, maybe would have driven me crazy doing it every single week. My role focused on engaging with the community, procuring donations for our after-school classrooms, bringing in presenters, field trips, and then getting volunteers engaged. So our leaders were going to the junior college and the university. We were doing our little 5-minute elevator pitch in classrooms for members, of course, but also for volunteers to come and work with the kiddos. And so that definitely, I think, planted a seed for where I am today. I also was in charge of the school garden. The member in the position before me had run the school garden, and I really wasn't like a plant person. Didn't have that skill set. It's really hard to kill plants in Northern California though. So I learned really quickly that's definitely changed my life. I'm a huge gardener now in my home. But yeah, I feel like the program that I worked in was really, really amazing. And the work that we were doing, I felt super engaged in the community and being able to help develop and sustain volunteerism within our
Mhm.
campus and as part of our larger program was really fantastic. So in my second year, I believe it was the first year of the Volunteer Infrastructure Project,
Mm.
which is like a California statewide program aiming to just build strong and sustain strong volunteer programs. Yeah, we had short-term volunteers that came like bringing sea stars and like little sea animals to come for second graders who are reading about that kind of thing in their after school classroom, all the way to like seniors in high school doing a service project that wanted to do a really big event and they were there every single week. It really made a mark for me. I think I gained a lot of skills and yeah, changed my
It's
life.
both your service years sounded almost exactly what my service year was like. And it was so remarkable how people want to give back, and finding volunteers was not hard. Like, it became so much fun. It was really like I come from sales. I worked in the fitness industry for about 10 years. And so finding volunteers was just like sales, right? Like, I got this great project slash product. Why don't you come in, check it out, and give me your time and give me your resources, and work on it. And it's so fun to find folks and to see them light up when they share their talents and their time. It's so neat. I love that. Did you find that was something that was like just such a driver?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was a really big part of the process that I learned of like finding, and that's true in sales as well, finding the match point of what motivates people, what do they have to contribute, so that you're not just saying, I need you to do this thing, come do it, but it's like, what would you like to offer and what really motivates you to be here? And then being able to build on that. And that helped to sustain a lot of long-term volunteers that may not have hung on as long if we
Yeah.
hadn't. When I was younger, I did a lot of like sampling, demo specialist type of work. Think of Costco giving out samples, talking to
Oh,
strangers all the time. So I feel like it made it easy to jump into a role like this and be like, hey, how are you? Come talk to me about this thing we can do together.
I've got a frozen hot dog, or a hot dog. We love going to Costco and getting samples. We just like circle around and get samples.
Yep, for
That's
sure.
so that's so fun. So you did 2 years of your service year, and that's cool that you came in as a leader for what was it? What do you know what it was that you had to come in as a leader? Because in general, leaders generally have 1 year service under their belt. So what was it? What was it that made you so special?
Oh, correct. There may be something I don't know, but that they appreciated about my skill set. But I definitely think having the degree in education, that I had
Mm,
some foundational knowledge about working with kids, best practices, and like pedagogy that I think helped me, that I could come from that framework and help support members who are working with maybe kids for the first time. And I think having that extra layer of responsibility, it put extra pressure on me to continue getting as much out of it as I could. That's the thing about AmeriCorps is if you invest a lot into it, it's going to pay you back tenfold. And I definitely feel like that was true. And all the lessons that I learned, I was in like a different lane headed in the same direction that I was going, but it really did inform a lot more of what I wanted to get out of a role in the classroom as a teacher. It taught me like who I am on a team. Having so many years
Mm,
in the service industry, you're in the trenches with folks and you build community, but there's no one's, let's sit down and talk about the team dynamics, right? So
yeah.
having that was really impactful for me to learn about like who I am on a team, what my needs are, and how I can contribute, my strengths, and also where I need to grow and improve. And then one thing I really loved about our program is that we were really inclusive. So we had a lot of students that maybe had like diverse range of like supports throughout the school system in the day, some more formal than others. But my teammate, who also had a degree in education and came in as a leader, we got invited to student support meetings on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
And that lit a fire for me for special education to think about what are ways I'm accommodating students? How can we really make sure that they feel like they're a part of this program? And so after my service, I actually went and used my Ed Award to get my master's in special education. And I don't think that's the path I would have been on had it not been for that experience.
That's so cool. I love hearing stories about experiences during someone's service year that directly leads them to do something that they either overlooked or just wouldn't have, like you said, been on a path to do. What did you do after you got your master's?
So I was a teaching assistant right after, and then got a job at a high school level. So I was like a collaborative modified inclusion and then some kind of smaller classes modifying curriculum, focusing on social studies. Taught that, and then of course I feel like sometimes in special ed you're doing lots of other things. So I also taught study skills and I co-taught Spanish too and US and world history. And then I pivoted to AP world history and taught that for 6 years. And then I felt it was right after, still in the COVID time, it was time to transition for me and time to pivot. I think teaching is branded as this lifelong thing. And for
Mm,
some, it is, and that's amazing. And I really had to change my mindset to think I'm leaving this, I'm pivoting with pretty much skills to do 40 different jobs. Now I got to figure out which one of those I want to do because it really is a role that equips you with so many skills. After I was ready to kind of transition, I kept thinking about AmeriCorps. Like I was always
mm.
telling students about it. If you're not really sure, once you graduate, you should think about this. And I know that programs often hire from their own, as all of your guests, most of them have shared. Like that really, I knew that I was like, okay, how do I tap into this, knowing that I'm going to be looking for a program that's not my own? I actually found out about my position on Instagram. I'm going to chat more about AmeriCorps
Wow.
Central Texas towards the end. But yeah, I started following AmeriCorps Central Texas and I knew about literacy first because I love literacy. That was a lot of what my master's program was about. So I was, what are the AmeriCorps programs nearby that center on that? And then once I saw they were hiring, it was like, okay, I can do that's a good fit for me.
That's so wild, and it's so 2024. I found my position following a hashtag or an account on Instagram. That's so cool. Oh, I'm gonna start thinking about the algorithms that I'm using in that little social media platform. That's so exciting. When did you start working with them?
2022. So next month will be 2 years for me.
Congratulations. And what's your program with Literacy First?
So we are an early literacy intervention program. We feel like literacy is a human right. It is the foundation for access, for success in all domains. And we really want to get kiddos as early as we can. So we start with that kinder, first, and second graders. We've got a research-based and really data-driven program
Mm,
that we implement. We're training early literacy tutors to be placed at a school site where they'll work with a caseload of students Monday through Friday to help them build those skills. We focus on phonemic awareness. Sounds exist, they have patterns, phonics, attaching those sounds to letters to build words, and then fluency, how smoothly and error-free we can read sentences. So those three components have allowed us to be the laser focus on the data. And one of the great skills our tutors walk away with is working with Salesforce and entering that data and doing some
mm.
analysis to figure out, is this working? If not, where do we stay within the guardrails of our model and fine tune it for that kid? I think it's a really amazing tool that we have to do the work that we do.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the fact that working with Salesforce is such a valuable skill. I can't say enough about like during your AmeriCorps year, figure out every tool that your organization is using and become like not an expert, but make sure you know how to do it because that can definitely take you to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. And Salesforce, shout out to Amanda McSwine at the South Carolina State Service Commission. Whenever I would ask her for something, she would walk around the office and she would say, "Let me show you how to get that out of Salesforce." And I was like, "You're so patient and kind."
Yes, it's definitely been a good learning curve for me to learn the system, but it's an amazing tool to have and it helps us really refine the work that we're doing. Yeah, so we're implementing our model in a really data-driven way. Our curriculum is really structured, so that helps tutors who are coming in with maybe less experience working with students that we've laid it out for you. You've got a guide to follow, but we always keep our eyes and ears open to feedback. We're always
Mm.
refining and fine-tuning based on research in the field as well. So even though we've been around for since 1994, we're doing this quite a while. You're never done. Nothing, there's no such thing as perfect. And so we definitely keep that as a value to keep growing. One really special thing about our program is that we are building early literacy skills in English and Spanish. Most of the campuses that we partner with are dual language campuses. And then we just defer to the language of instruction that parents and the school have agreed upon. But as
Mm.
far as we know, we're the only program doing what we do in Spanish, and we're proud to say so.
That's really cool. And so what type of positions are available? We chatted a little bit before we hit recording that they're not available until March, but it's good to learn about the program. Reach out to
Leah, yeah, you got it.
Leah if you have questions or if you're interested. It because March, it seems like it's far away, but unfortunately it's not.
No, so actually we start in September.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, we're a 9-month program from September to May, so following the school year cycle. We have three position types. So in AmeriSpeak, reduced half-time and three-quarter time, but that's a 20, 30, or 36-hour commitment per week. And yeah, we have training through September before we get tutors at their school site and get them working with kiddos. And yeah, I've got a few positions open all across the city, but some of the benefits I think from working with our program, in
Yeah.
addition to the stipend and the education award that are pretty standard, though I will say our stipend, we have fought and worked really hard to get that as high as we possibly can for our members. We offer health insurance for all three position types, so not a lot of roles out there that you're going to get those benefits for medical with 20 hours a week.
Mm.
Weekly coaching with our staff. So they're
Nice.
on site once a week to really help make good decisions. They give a ton of feedback. They're a great resource for so many different skills that are applicable to the role. And also, I think just like soft skills is such an important component of AmeriCorps too. We
Mhm.
own that. Some of it's by happenstance. You're going to get better at time management because you are thinking about the total number of hours you need. But in thinking about how we work on our teams, we do want to have those open conversations and encourage members to seek feedback on how they can grow in those ways as well when we're talking about things employers want to see, right? Like accountability, collaboration, problem solving, flexibility, all the things that come with any AmeriCorps service term, but definitely get that good practice in with our program for sure.
I
Um,
swear AmeriCorps is like the best professional and personal development that anybody could ever ask for the most part. There some programs need to pick up their game, but for the most part, I know that I felt it during my service year that it was any help that I needed, I was able to find somebody either on staff or within the cohort that could support me with something that I was struggling with or wanted to learn more about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that personal development is so important too. It's one thing that came out of my service term that I didn't have the language for in my early 20s is I feel like it planted the seed of my personal and professional values. And then I now, having lived multiple kind of
Yeah.
professional lives, am able to go, oh yeah, like inclusion, connection, and growth are like the key things that are anchoring me in all that I'm doing. And I really do feel like my service years began that, right? Or at least helped me to start to crystallize that in my mind for what am I looking for? What's going to keep me motivated on a bad day? What can I look at a decision I have to make and say, okay, am I aligned with that? And I definitely think that personal development probably would have taken me a lot longer to get to for sure.
That's a ringing endorsement to AmeriCorps for sure.
Oh,
What does it? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was one more benefit. We are a program that operates through the University of Texas, and so we get
Mm.
some perks with that. We have an employee assistance program to offer a number of resources for members that need it. Our members will also get UTIDs that get them free bus transportation across the city of Austin. So we do have quite a large local number in our cohort that are using the bus. But then for people who are transplants and relocating for the role, if you're not able to bring a car with you, that can save a ton of money having that benefit for sure.
That's a great perk. I think Ashley, I just recorded her podcast. She just came out for Portland, Oregon, and they have transportation also, bus passes for their members. So that's a great perk.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, what is the application process? What does it look like?
So we have an application on our website. We have a whole Become a Tutor page, so literacyfirst.org. A lot of information there worth exploring. So folks will apply, and in that they can share like what area of town. We go by zones, and that really helps us in terms of thinking about placement from the get-go, and share what position type they're interested in. Then we'll set up an interview through Calendly. Shout out to Calendly, amazing tool, saves me
I
so much.
know, I use it. Love it.
And then, yeah, go through an interview process. Then we'll run some references and have some internal reviews. And yeah, that's the way it goes down. And then we have like our whole enrollment process. As anyone who's done AmeriCorps knows, there's lots of steps and pieces to follow for compliance sake. But then we get the ball rolling in September for our year.
That sounds really exciting. It's fun to think about like training and what are we going to do to have the cohort feel together before the service year. So I bet you're in that mode right now. It's not by
Yeah.
your eyes. You're like, yes.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, last year I did like a Flipgrid. Have you ever heard of Flipgrid before?
Mm-mm.
I used it in the classroom a lot, especially during COVID. It's like you make little videos and people can see each other's videos within a group and comment.
Oh,
But technology update, it's like not necessarily available. I'm gonna have to find a workaround because it's a really good way to put a face with the name and get a nice intro. I'm gonna see if I can get us together for a little outing and some appetizers or something. Our cohort will be about 72, so
wow.
all spread out over 20 campuses across the city. So we try to get folks together. That pre-service training is really important to make those bonds. But we're on Zoom quite a bit. It's a little challenging to get everybody all together all the time, but we do what we can.
This has been so great and inspiring. Your story is so intentional and thoughtful of doing a service year, getting out to California and seeing what's out there. It's a cool place. I grew up there, but in Southern California. Is there anything else that you want our viewers and listeners to know about either your service year, AmeriCorps in general, or the program that you're recruiting for, Literacy First?
I think for Literacy First, it's really important. Some people that ask me, I'm not really sure, like they're not really going into field of education. So I think that can be a misnomer for a lot of the education programs. That's almost a prerequisite. We have folks that are in public health who are in UX design. They have a skill set or they want to be engaged in that way. They like working with kids or they're curious about it. And our programs are a great way to dip your toe in the water of the education system, see how it operates, and if it is a good fit for you without 30 kids in front of you that you're in charge of in a really supportive environment. Like you said, I think all programs are different, but our program is relentlessly positive. We are really supportive because we feel like if tutors feel supported and confident, that's going to trickle down to students who are leaving class to do something vulnerable and go work on a skill that they know that they don't excel at. So that rapport is so essential. And we really don't have that prerequisite of having people on a teacher track. Our core is a really diverse group. This past year, we had our youngest member was 17, our oldest member was 78.
I love
think
that.
so far, I think about over a third of our members are over the age of 30. So we have a lot of retirees or transitioning professionals. And I think that there's so much benefit to that because there's this intergenerational mentorship on all angles. And there's a lot of like you're getting a lot out of it, being able to see the growth of the students that you're working with. That's so amazing. And see it on a graph in a chart, like they're doing this. But also just knowing like you're gaining so many things just building those relationships. And they are relationships that can last a really long time. My teammate was my reference for my current job, and he and I stay in touch all the time and visit when we can. And so I think you never know when you're going to make a strong network connection. You never know when you're going to make a really close friendship, sometimes one and the same. And we really try to foster that in our program. We've got over almost half of our members from last year are returning for another service year.
Oh, that's a great number.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
more than the standard, but
Yeah.
we're really, I will go for it. I'm going to try to aim higher in the future. I think it says my team is really sweet and they give me kudos for that, but I think it really is more widespread because it's not
Mhm.
I said, hey, come back, and I see them at training sometimes, even though I do really like member development. But the work that they're doing at the coaching level to really help support those members, give them the tools that they
Yeah.
need, that is, they're doing the work. I'm just reminding them you can keep doing this if you want to. So I think that's something really special about our program is the community that we're building and how we're really living into our values to keep people around and keep our mission-driven work going.
It sounds
And
like
then
a great opportunity. And I love that you brought up that there's retirees or there's people that are just pivoting or trying something new. And AmeriCorps is a great place to do that. If you're in a financial position where you can try something like that, it's awesome. And even if not, give it a try, do a part-time position and see what it's like. So that's really great advice.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's transparency in that, right? It does. There's the historical AmeriCorps member, more traditional, it's out of high school. It's definitely, there's privilege that, and myself included, that takes moving across the country and being able to live on the stipend or the living allowance and coming into it saying, you may do a half-time and you may have a part-time job. And that's okay, right? You're going to be able to
Yeah.
get so much out of it that it really is because it's transitional and temporary by design that it's let's own that and know that it's an investment in yourself and as well as in your community to do that work and sometimes that doesn't always look as streamlined of a path as sometimes people
Mhm.
have in mind for themselves. It seems like it's a step back or a step down and really it's just like your first step in a different direction. It doesn't have to look how you envisioned it, so I think that
And
perspective is really
it
helpful.
is just like what you said, it's an investment in yourself. And if you think about taking a 3-month course or something like that just to explore, this gives you experience, like experiential learning and like discovering just you could just maybe somebody's in love with the database when they're like, oh my gosh, I really love working with Salesforce. So now I want to blend or whatever. You just never know what you're going to get out of a service year, but you're going to get something, just something. That's great. Any last words before we wrap up?
Subtle plug for AmeriCorps Central Texas. So we have a collaborative of programs. There are 9 AmeriCorps programs in our Central Texas area. And I would say over the last 8 years or so, we have found that it is let's work together, work smarter, not harder. So we're recruiting collectively. Our EDs are all connected to think about what our needs are as programs. And I think it makes us all stronger. So all that to say, if you're like, okay, Austin's cool, but I don't know that I want to work with kinder through second grade, there are a lot of other options. After school program, working with animals, working with artists with disabilities, working with high school to middle school students on a college path. Yeah, there's a lot of other ways to get invested and involved. That is the website collectively is AmeriCorpsCTX.org. So definitely want to highlight that. And then of course, as well as AmeriCorps Central Texas Literacy First. We're all on Instagram and LinkedIn, so give us a follow and check it out. I think for organizations that are using those platforms, it's a really good peek inside to just follow it, see the stories they're telling, how they're telling them, and that can say a lot about whether it's a good fit for you or not.
That's a great plug. And what a great idea to have a collaborative. And I love that you have a website because I was going to ask for that. And what was the Instagram?
And for AmeriCorps Central Texas, it's just AmeriCorps CTX.
Okay. And then for literacy
Ours is
first?
just Literacy First.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, all spelled out.
Awesome. This was so inspiring. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And folks, we will have, I think, this is my second to last recording for the recruitment series. So I hope you enjoyed it. And if you're interested in anything that you hear here, anything that you have heard, you reach out to me if you don't know how to get in touch with the program directors and managers and all the guests that we've had on, or just go to the show notes and find their information. Thank you so much, Leah.
Thank
And all right, we're done. We did
you.
it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.